All right, we're going to go ahead and get started with our webinar for today. You are attending the NOACA webinar series, the Edulastic. This is a different kind of webinar that we've done in the past. It is not directly related to Google, but you can sign in with your Google account, and Edulastic is free to all users, teachers, and students, and you are able to use it to allow your students to practice their test-taking skills. And we're going to look at a lot of the features of Edulastic and kind of talk about how you can do that with your class. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk about a couple things before we go ahead and get started. My name is Christy Hughes. I'm going to be your host for this webinar for today. A little bit about myself. I'm an educational technologist over at NOACA, as well as a Google for Education certified trainer. And I've actually been at NOACA now for 13 years. I was an elementary classroom teacher before that, and I have 3 kids of my own that keep me busy outside of work time. So our objective for this webinar, again, is just to learn how Edulastic can be used to prepare your students for online test taking. I did a similar webinar to this a couple weeks ago, and it was called EdSite. EdSite and Edulastic are both very useful products. They're both free. So if your district decides to use both or one or the other, they're both awesome products. And again, they're both free. So don't feel like you have to choose one over the other. This webinar is really just to kind of give you an overview of what it looks like, and then you can kind of decide if this is something that you'd like to use. Before we kind of jump into Edulastic, I just want to point out, and you guys are probably already familiar with this website because this is probably how you signed up for this webinar. But in any case, our NOACA training website is training.noaca.org. If you click on the class materials up in the top corner, all of our class materials are listed there. You can just click on any one of these icons and it will bounce you out to what we call a checklist. And this checklist does have instructional videos on how to do the various items for the icon that you did click on. EdSite and Edulastic also have resources on their websites, so feel free to use those as well if you didn't find anything listed on our website. But I also want to mention that all of these webinars that we do are recorded, and so you can click on that recorded webinars tab right up at the top, and you can visit any of the previously recorded webinars that we do. This semester, we are actually doing webinars every single week, one a week, so feel free to kind of hop around and see if there's anything that might help you out. All right, so next screen, our Tech Tuesday tips, the URL is down there at the bottom. If you would like to get an email in your inbox every Tuesday, and so today is Tuesday, we just sent one out a little bit earlier today. They're real short and sweet. There's nothing really long about them or involved, but they just kind of help you talk about different tech tips and tricks that you can try in and outside of your classroom, and they're all over the place. Some are Google related, some are not, some are with email, some are calendar, and so they're all really different. So this is a free service. If you'd like to sign up, just follow that link down at the bottom and then go ahead and sign up. And then again, last couple things I just want to talk to you about. You guys probably have seen this GEG of Northwest Ohio little logo here in the corner of our slideshow for today. Our GEG of Northwest Ohio does have different events throughout the school year. And one of the ones that we have coming up in a couple weeks is in Perrysburg, and this is going to be at their Commodore building in Perrysburg on March 7th, and it's totally free. You can come, you can attend sessions, you can present if you'd like to, and you can just kind of gather a whole lot of information and then go back to your district and try some of those things. It is 8 to 2:30, and you can sign up using this URL, as well as I'm going to hop out of this presentation in just a second and show you what that website actually looks like to kind of show you where all those forms are, where you can sign up to be a presenter or just an attendee. But once again, it's totally free, and we would encourage you guys to sign up. So before we get started with Edulastic real quick, I just want to show you that website. Here's the GEG of Northwest Ohio website. It does have the date right there, March 7th, 2017. It's starting at 7:45, but the sessions aren't going to be starting until around 8 o'clock. And then until 2:30, it's at the board office. There's a little map there, and then if you scroll down just a little bit, you can register for our event. So if that's something that interests you, we would encourage you to sign up. All right, so I'm going to present this one last time, and then we're actually going to be hopping out of this in a second to just go live with Edulastic. But before I do that, we'll just click on Edulastic. Some of the topics that we're going to cover today within Edulastic is number one, of course, how you can go ahead and sign in. I already told you that you can use your Google account. So if you are a Google school, in my opinion, that's the easiest way to sign up, because if you're already signed in to Google, you can just go ahead and click on sign in with Google, and it will automatically sign you into Edulastic. However, if you don't want to do that, you certainly can create your own username and password for Edulastic, and that will work fine too. It's free either way. We're going to talk about creating classes, adding your students, adding questions, assignments, and grading and so forth, and reports. The reports have a lot of information, so you're going to be hopefully impressed with how Edulastic does their reports. And then lastly, how to share with others. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this next screen here, and that is to tune into the Christy Show on Edulastic. So at that point, I'm going to go ahead and hop out of this presentation. I'm going to move my screen over for Edulastic, because I'm actually signed in with a different account here. So I'm going to go ahead and move my screen over, and hopefully you guys can see that coming in. I just went to edulastic.com. So again, at this point, if you'd like to try this on your own, you can just go to edulastic.com, and where it says log in, if you click on that login button up in the top corner, I'm already signed in with my Google account. But if you were not signed in, it will have a sign in with Google button kind of down towards the bottom. So feel free to do that. Again, you don't have to. You certainly can just sign in with your own, creating your own account. In any case, this is kind of what the home page of Edulastic looks like. I see off to the side, here's my word, Edulastic. I see my account over on this side. This is my name. And then over here, you kind of saw this move a little bit. If I click on this word menu, and those of you that are using Google Classroom, you may notice some similarities with this. I have my 3 lines, what we call our hamburger menu in Google Classroom. If I go ahead and click on that, that's when all these extra things come up off to the side. So we have what's called our dashboard. So again, if you're a user of Google Classroom, you're going to go ahead and see your classes all listed here. So very easily, I'm going to go ahead and see my classes, and over in the corner, I get my plus sign, just like Google Classroom does, where I can go ahead and add a class. Now, I'm going to go ahead and do that, but also what I want you to do, or want to show you rather, is so that I clicked on that dashboard, but also I have the ability down here to click on Manage Class. So if you have a class already in there, you can go ahead and click on Manage Class, and this allows you to go ahead and edit any part of your classes. So I have active classes. I also have archived classes. Again, if that's very similar to Google Classroom. One of the things that I like about Edulastic, and this is something that I get comments from a lot of people about a lot of different applications out there, is Edulastic actually has a demo class that's already in there for you. Because lots of times, and including myself, lots of times we try to learn these new applications or products, and there's really no students in there to test with, or nothing that we can just kind of test with to play with before we actually use it, because we're always afraid to do it unless we know what's going to happen. So within Edulastic, they do have 10 students that are in your demo class, and that's what it's called. And they actually have 3 assignments that are already in there that you can look at the reports, you can look at more options, you can look at the grades, and so forth. So that's really one thing that I really enjoyed about Edulastic, is that it already is populated with one class where you can kind of play around with and get used to it before you start using it. In any case, I'm going to hop back up to my dashboard once again just to kind of backtrack a little bit. And here are my classes, and so I see my classes that I've added. So I have 3 students, and 0 students, and I also kind of, like Google Classroom, I get the overview right away of what assignments are coming up. I can view all of them, no recent assignments. I can see all of that right from the beginning. If I wanted to add a class, I'm going to go ahead and click on that plus sign, Add Class. And here I can go ahead and add a class name. So we'll just call it this webinar class just to make it stand out a little bit more. So here's my webinar. I can select the subject. So I get, the main subjects here, or I can just go ahead and click on other subjects. We'll just make this math. I can select standards that this class may be working on, and right away it's Math Common Core. It's also pulling up a ton of other ones. So of course I'm going to go up to the top and just say Math Common Core, but you certainly, or if you have friends in other states, they can use this too. Here's your grade level, so I can go ahead and pull down the grade level. So I'm just kind of specifying, let's say I'm doing grade 6. So the description, and then obviously there's no active students at this point. So if I go ahead and save the class, I can go ahead and it will become an active class. So I'll click on Save the Class again. It will become an active class, and here's where immediately it's going to go ahead and allow me to add students. So there's a couple different ways, I should say more than a couple different ways, that you can add students to this class. So the first way, and you guys are probably seeing this code right here. If I am a non-Google Classroom teacher, I don't have to do anything with Google Classroom. You see that down here, but I don't have to use that. I can go ahead and use that code and have my students sign in with an Edulastic account, give them that class code, and then they will go ahead and be a part of my class. If I did use Google Classroom, if I click on Sync with Google Classroom, it will pull up my students in a Google Classroom class, and this is the really neat part about it. It will pull the code from Google Classroom. So if you guys use Google Classroom, you know that you get students in with that class code. So if I click on Sync with Google Classroom, it will grab that class code from Google Classroom and apply it to this class. And it will go ahead and ask me which students I want inside that class. So here's where it's asking me, where is that Google Classroom code? So I like how it's using that same code. So for students, it's really nice. They don't have to, remember or type in multiple things. Other ways you can add students, here you can actually add them manually if you want to. You can click on Add Student. You can put in their username, the name. You can even make up passwords for them, and you can go ahead and add students that way. And then lastly, you can upload a whole class roster. And so this is really neat. If I click on Upload Class Roster, of course, you know that if you're ever doing things with like CSV files or Excel or PowerSchool or PowerTeacher, everything has to have matching fields for it to upload properly. So what this does is you can download a class roster template, and when you do that, it will already have like first name, last name, username, password, and you just pretty much fill in the blanks, and then you can go ahead and upload it, and then all of those students will be part of this class immediately. So there's lots of different ways you can add students to your class. Once again, it kind of just depends on the purpose that you want to use Edulastic. If you do everything through Classroom, you can just go ahead and sync it, or you can do it, outside of Classroom too. All of these things, you'll see these little pencils everywhere. That just allows me to edit any part of that information if I want to go ahead and do that. All right, so this class is active, and I'm not going to add any students to this class because I actually have another class that I have students in, but I could visit it just to see it. And this is what it really looks like. It's kind of like a blank shell because there's nothing in it at this point. But this is a good part, and if you notice off to the side, it defaulted, it hopped over to Dashboard, and now I'm on assignments. So it did that automatically when I went ahead and clicked on that class. So up at the top, though, since it did default to that webinar class and I don't have anybody in there, I'm just going to go ahead and drop that menu down, and I'm going to select whatever class I want to work in. Remember that you can also do that over here on your dashboard, and you can also do that in your Manage class. But since I'm already in assignments, I'm just going to do it over here. I'm going to drop this menu down, and I'm going to go ahead and go to my ELA, or I'll go ahead and go to my math class grade 8. So here it is. Here's another class. I don't have any assignments in this class. So to create assignments, and if you have a general understanding of EdSite or any kind of these applications that are used for online test taking skills, a lot of these applications have questions and assignments that are already prepared for you that you pretty much just like pick and choose which ones you want to use, and then you assign it to your class. So if I click on Create New Assignment right here, it's allowing me, and it says, look at that big number, how many questions are available for Math Common Core Grade 8. And you know what, I've heard a lot of comments back from math teachers especially, because sometimes it's a struggle for math teachers to find questions and assignments that, practice those skills. So Edulastic is really great for all subjects, but especially math, because it has a lot of those questions that are already in there that your students can practice with. So Untitled Assessment 2, I can just go ahead and name this. We'll call it a webinar assignment. We'll just say ASST, and I'll say create assignment. Now notice how this kind of breaks up into two different sections. So it says create an assignment from scratch. That would be I'm creating everything from scratch. I could still pull in questions that might already be created, but I'm creating the assignment as a whole from scratch. Or I can choose something from the assessment library. So we're going to do both ways, and I'll show you what it looks like, and then, at the end of the day, you can decide what you'd like to do. So I'm going to click on Create Assignment, and at this point, it says, okay, well, I have, 3,400 or so questions that match your criteria. It already knew that I was searching for grade 8 because I typed that in when I started the class. It already knew that I was searching for math because, again, that's part of that class title. It pulled it right from there. However, I certainly could change it if I wanted to, but I like how it already has those preset things already in where I don't have to waste time, typing things in. So here's my standards. I can go ahead and look at all these different standards and just kind of check the ones that I'm looking for. This is really just going to serve as a filter if I wanted to find certain questions dealing with that standard. I'm just going to leave it open for this example, but item banks, just like kind of, an EdSite and some of the other ones, you have your private library, which is just you're the only one that sees it. You have a school library or a district library, and these are contingent on if people actually share their questions or assignments that they're doing. If people are using this, but they're not really making it public or sharing it, of course you're not going to be able to see those, but if other people are sharing them, then they will be listed there. Here's your public library. So again, anybody in the world that's using Edulastic, if they make their question or their assignment public, then you will be able to see it. And then lastly, and everybody likes to see this one, Edulastic certified. So if there are questions or assignments that are Edulastic certified, I can go ahead and just kind of filter those through and look. I get a much smaller number, and I can look through those. But know that you have the ability to do any of those. I like also question types. So if my students are struggling with a certain type of question, I can go ahead and drag this down and kind of look through all the different types of questions. So let's just click on, we'll click on graphing since it's math. And then we keep going here, depth of knowledge. So here are the different skills and so forth that we can go ahead and do. And then difficulty levels, so easy, medium, and hard. And, and this might be a little, I don't know, sometimes I usually leave it blank because, that's kind of someone's opinion, but you get the idea where you would be able to go ahead and do that. So here are all the questions. So now I'm down to 151 instead of like 3,000 or 4,000, whatever it was before. So now I'm down to 151, and I can scroll through these questions and kind of pick and choose which ones I want to put into my assessment. So it says, of course, the author. It says how many people have viewed it, and this is the little like symbol, if you will, that we see on like Facebook and Twitter and so forth. And so, of course, it's showing us the standards, and it's showing us lots of different things. Now, I can go through and just pop this out just to see the question, to preview it, so that I don't just have to click on it and, use it without really looking at it. So I can preview it. I can also duplicate it. So maybe I like the graph, but I don't really like the verbiage in the question. So I can go ahead and duplicate it and then change it, and then that way I can use it however I want to. So let's just imagine, for the sake of time, that we've gone through and we've looked at a lot of these questions and we've seen some that we liked. We previewed them, maybe we duplicated a couple of them, and let's say now I'm just ready to add some of these questions to make it an assessment. So all I have to do is I can click these boxes right here. So I'm saying, okay, I want to use these questions. And you notice up here in the top corner, I get this little green bubble that says 3. So I've added 3 types of questions to my assessment. Now you also see right here where I can author a new question. So let's say that, let's say I'll just click a couple of these. Let's say that I liked these, but I still wanted to add my own question. So I can go ahead and author a new question, and I have to rename this, of course. So I can author a new question, and I can kind of compile all these different things together to make it my type of assessment, my specific type of assessment that I really want my students to do. I can always review it too, like maybe I want to review it and decide, that I don't really like that question, or I want to change it or edit it. I can always do that too. So let's go ahead and name this. We'll just name it Sample 3. I had a Sample 2 in there before, so we'll call it Sample 3 just so we can tell the difference. And we're going to go ahead and review it. So we'll click on Review, and it says now I can go ahead and review these questions. So I can go through and I can look and I can reorder, and that's always a nice thing to do because, of course, when I'm in the questions, I'm just kind of checking around the questions that I like. But now with this reorder, I can just go ahead and do it. If I decide that I don't want any one of these questions again, I can simply just delete it, and it just cuts it out and bounces everything else up to the top. So I'm, just kind of looking at this. I also get these extra buttons up at the top now. So what I've done is I've looked through, I didn't make my own question yet, but I've looked through all the questions that are already there, and I've just kind of compiled, now I have 5 questions because I've deleted some, of just questions that are already there. So up at the top, it says View as Student, which is really helpful. So if I wanted to see what the student would see, again, that's nice with that demo class. But I can see this, what the student would see. And, for online testing, they can get a hint, they can flag it, they're timed. You can turn these things on and off. But so I'm kind of mimicking or masquerading as a student at this point, and I'm looking at all these different questions. So that's really nice too. So I'm going to close that. I want to define what save as a draft means versus publish or assign. So save as a draft, of course, just like if you're writing a rough draft, you can save it as a draft, and then you can always go back and finish it later. It puts it in a different spot in Edulastic, and then even if you don't do anything to it, you can save it as a draft and then always publish it or assign it on a different day. So I'm going to go ahead, we'll just click on Publish or Assign so I can show you what that looks like. And so I published or assigned, and now, classroom users, this screen probably looks a little bit familiar too, because what it's doing is it's saying, okay, you want to assign now, or do you want to publish and use later? So it's saying assign this to. Now I like this. Again, it's saving me some time. It already defaulted to the math class. So it already knows that I'm inside my math class and I'm assigning things to math. However, I can type in my webinar class. All right, there it is, my webinar class, if I could spell it right. So I can go ahead and push this out to multiple classes if I wanted to. Oh, it looks like maybe I had a capital W or something. You have to get the exact spelling. And also, you can do it to a particular student. So let's say that you had a couple students that, not the whole class, you just wanted a couple students to do this assignment. Google Classroom, you can do that now, and you can do group activities and, leveling and stuff like that. But you can also do that in Edulastic, where I can go ahead and just assign it to a class and also individual students. Here's your assessment window. Another thing that I really like, you can start it, and here's the due date. Assessment open, so it's automatically open on the start date, or they have to manually open it in class. You can have it close on the due date or close manually in class. So lots of different options that you have here. Here's your grade release. Because a lot of these questions are, like the answer is A or the answer is C or the graph has to be, whatever, most of them have the grades, or I'm sorry, the answers already in the questions. So with that said, just like EdSite, you can have Edulastic automatically graded for you, where once the student turns it in, it will automatically be graded. And then if you want Edulastic to automatically give the grades back or release them, you can do that. However, especially this time of year where everybody's sick and, some people are absent and so forth, if you'd rather not do that, you can click over here, and this gives you the ability to manually look at those questions or look at the assignments after the fact, and then decide when you want to release the grades. So you have both of those abilities right now. Down here at the bottom where it says Share Assessment, and if you remember a little bit ago, we talked about if you wanted to gather assessments from like your private library that's only private to you, or people maybe in your district or people in your school or with the whole Edulastic community, and I was telling you that's where those questions are, this is where you can decide if you would like to share out this assignment. So by default, I like that it already has private checked because especially if you're just getting started, you may not want to share everything at the beginning. Maybe you do, but I like how that's the default because then if you would like to share it, it is an extra click for you then to decide where you'd want to share it to. So if your district is using this, like your whole district is using this and all the 8th grade teachers are wanting to share, you can do that, or with your school or with the whole Edulastic community, you can do that as well. So lots of neat things. Now up at the top, all I have to do is click on Assign. And when I click on Assign, then this assignment will go ahead and it's been assigned as in progress, so your students can begin working on this assignment right away. So I can monitor the student progress and responses by clicking on the View Responses, and I can view the assignment, I can view the responses, and then I can go back to Google Classroom if I wanted to. So again, I like how all of this is kind of integrated all together. So that was, we'll go ahead and go back to our little dashboard over here. So that was the assignments part where we just kind of looked at some of those questions that were already in there, and we went ahead and created an assignment based on the questions that were already in there. Now I'm going to go ahead, I just clicked on assignments again, and I see the sample 3, I see it's in progress. I see that it's assigned to 3 students, 0 submitted. Nobody got a grade yet because they didn't do it. But let's say I want to go ahead and create another assignment. So this time I'll go ahead and we'll call it sample 4 because I want to show you how we can go ahead and pull in your own questions. So author a new question. And remember, you can do both. You can use questions that are there and you can also author your own question. So when I click on author your own question, I get lots of different things that I can do. So I can click on multiple choice, text drop-down, essay type, true, false, math enhanced. I can click on any one of these. And again, I'm not sure what everybody teaches in this webinar today, but if you're a math teacher, I really think that Edulastic has a lot to offer for math teachers because a lot of these things are really tough to mimic if you're using, if you're trying to get your students ready for these assessments or these online tests, and you don't really have a lot of resources to use. With Edulastic, and I'm just kind of scrolling through these different question types, you can see all the different question types that are available to you. Now, of course, certainly if you are an ELA teacher, social studies, science, certainly you have a lot of different options with that too. I just think that with math, they've really kind of gone, they have a lot to offer. So here's ELA, tech, enhanced, so we have passage, sentence response, editing, drag and drop. So all these different things that resequence, all these different things that we can go ahead and do. I'm not going to go through the entire process, but I will just go ahead and show you really quickly. I'm going to click on resequence. So remember, this is the part where I'm creating my own question. So I can just say drag and drop the correct order. I probably would write a lot more, but since I'm talking and typing at the same time, I just went ahead and typed that. Notice how I get my text editor over here. So I get some extra tools where I can go ahead and do some different things. Here's my square root, and I can click on different things over here. So I can even insert multimedia. So if I wanted, probably not for this question so much, but if there was a video that I wanted my students to watch and then answer questions, then I can go ahead and do that too. So you get lots of different options with your text editor. So I can certainly, let me move my text editor out of the way. I can certainly go ahead and put in, what I did is I just clicked one time in this box and all these options came up, or I can use my text editor. Either way will work. But here again, if I wanted to insert an image, I can go ahead and do that, add to your upload, upload now, or select files. I can do that too. So I can also add more rows. So if this was not enough in my sequence of events, I can go ahead and add more and then create my own question. So I'm going to go ahead and click on cancel there. All right, so that was all under this assignments part, right underneath dashboard. So we looked at some of the questions that were already there, and then we talked about creating our own question. If we go to assessment library over here, and this probably is going to look a little bit more familiar too, With Assessment Library, these are assessments that are already created. So these might have 20 questions in them. They might have 10 questions in them. You know, they might have some of the things in there. Certainly you can edit any of these things, but notice how I get a lot of different options. So over here, it's defaulting to grade 8, Math Common Core once again. Here's public. I can go ahead and search sharing level if I wanted to share. When I clicked on private, I only have one assignment in this class. That's what happened when I clicked on private. District, we probably don't have any at Nowaka. So I usually default to that public because that's going to give me the most, choices. But if your school has some or your district has some, feel free to go ahead and use that. Over here, just to kind of filter out some of these different assessments, I can go ahead and choose a standard if I wanted to. Again, I'm still in my math subject, but if I wanted to choose a different subject or standard over here, I can go ahead and do that and just kind of filter them out a little bit more. I'm just going to click on one really quick just so I can show you. The other thing I want to mention too up at the top is sorting. It always sorts by how they're rated. You can sort by popularity, you can sort by the name, or any of these things really. But to me, I kind of just use these over here a lot more because then this kind of drills down and filters out the things that I want, and then maybe just kind of scroll through and look at them. But let me just click on this one just to give you an idea of what it looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up. And again, this is going to be an assignment that's already created. So it's giving me the details. This one has 20 questions in it. So I can see, how many times it's been liked and all that stuff. I can create a new version if I want to. If I wanted to preview it, I can go ahead and do that as well. So if I click on preview, again, this is what my students will see when they open this up. So I can go ahead and click on next, and I can go through all these different questions and see what my students will see. I'm going to go ahead and close that though. When I click on assign, it will kind of work the same way as it did when we just clicked on our assignments over here, because it's automatically going to pop up with a little window that says, okay, you're ready to assign this to your math class. Again, I can type in a student's name, or I can assign it to more than one class, and I can go ahead and give it a start date, end date, assessment open, all those different things that we talked about before. So we get all of those abilities with this as well. If I just click on assign, then that will go ahead and assign it also. I'm going to hop back just so we kind of get out of math for a second, because I don't know what subjects everyone teaches, but I'm going to hop in, we'll hop into this webinar class just to kind of change things up a little bit. And I'll click on create assignment. This time what I'm going to do is we're just going to search for an assessment library. We'll just kind of search through it. We'll click on browse all assessments. So it's searching, we'll get rid of math. We'll change it to something else. We'll do all subjects. So it's searching grade 6, all subjects, and you can see pronouns, you can see, more pronouns. We have lots of different things. So again, I probably would want to filter this out depending on what subject I teach, but you can see that there's a lot of different things in here. So it's looking through all this stuff. And there's even a music one, so that's a different one, so that's nice too. So let me scroll up here and go out of this. I just wanted to show you how that would work. So again, here's my menu. I'll click on this once again, dashboard, assignments, and assignment library. Now, let's go ahead and click on my assessments. So my assessments is going to show all the assessments that I have, that I've created. So I have 3 published and I have 2 drafts. Now, if you remember when we were creating that assessment, I was able to assign it right away, or I was able to save it as a draft. And remember, if you save it as a draft, that might be if you wanted to make changes later, or just kind of like if you see something that you like, you can go ahead and save it as a draft and then go back and edit it when you're ready and then assign it when you're ready. So here's the published ones. So these are the ones that are ready to go that I have in my classes. Here are my drafts. And so I have these different drafts here where I have preview. So again, I can preview it as a student, or I can also click on edit. So, and this one doesn't look like it has any questions in it. That's probably why it's a draft. But you can go ahead and continue to edit any drafts or any assessments that you have. However, once you assign it, of course, you're not going to be able to edit it anymore because it has been assigned. So again, we'll just kind of hop over to our little main menu off to the side. So we talked about our assessments, we talked about our assignment library, and of course our assignments. So I'm going to talk about reports in just a minute. I'm going to hop down to my Manage Class one more time. I'm going to go down to Manage Class, and I'm going to go way down to the bottom to my Demo Class. Because remember, if you're trying Edulastic and you're kind of new to this, it does automatically put that Demo Class in your account. And I'm going to click on Visit Class so I can see all my classes, or I can see my class and the assignments and so forth. So these assignments have been assigned. And these two assignments, the students completed. I have 10 assigned, 10 submitted, 10 grades released, and so the students got their grades back. So I'm going to show you what that looks like, and then we're kind of going to go into the whole reporting part. So let's just go ahead and click on this one right here. So this is the first assignment that was created in my demo class, and all 10 students took this assignment, or they completed this assignment. So it says 10 out of 10 submitted, so this is my average score. Now, Edulastic is going to do this automatically for you because if you have your grades or your answers already set in there, then it will automatically grade it for you. Or, of course, if you're using some of those questions that are already created, they already have the answers already selected in there too. So it will automatically grade it. However, remember that you also get the ability to go ahead and manually grade it if you want to. You don't always have to have Edulastic do it if you don't want to. But I really like this reporting part. I really like this screen that you get when, and this one says automatic grade release on submission, so that's how this one was set. So I really like this screen. So it's showing, okay, question 1. Of course, the green indicates that there was correct answers, and the red indicates that, you know, it was the incorrect answer. So it says 1 wrong answer and then 9 correct answers. And I'm just kind of hovering over this. And I also like this part. It says average time in seconds. So as an average, my 10 students that took this took 48 seconds to answer question 1. Now, again, that's not every, you know, like I could drill down to each person, but on an average, that's how much they spent. So maybe some of these wrong answers, so 4 wrong answers and, you know, 6 correct answers, maybe I kind of want to look at, well, they spent less time, 30 seconds. So I can go ahead, and this one's 33 seconds. So maybe that doesn't really mean anything, but it's really good data just to kind of see as a whole based on how many questions there were throughout my whole assessment. Now over here are all my students. So again, I'm a big visual person. I like to just, I mean, of course I like to read all the details and all the information, but as a whole, I like to go to a page and kind of see colors and see as a whole, is there more green or is there more red? And just get a general idea of how my class did as a whole. And so this page, this report to me is really important because I can look through each person and kind of see, okay, well, this person only got 1 wrong, this person got a few more wrong, and I can scroll down and see as a whole how everybody did, and this person got 100%. So, of course, I can view their responses. So I can go ahead and click on View Responses, and this will pull up all of their responses for this particular assessment. So it's giving me that graph once again, and I can drill down to each student and see how long they took on each question, if they got it right or wrong, and then how long they took for total to take the assessment too. So I can see all the questions, and of course I'm going to see the correct answers there. How many correct ones, partially correct, incorrect, how many they skipped, how many were not graded, and then I can give them feedback if I wanted to. So I'm able to kind of see this just from this report screen, and Edulastic does this for me automatically. I don't really have to do anything. Again, this assessment was automatically graded. Once the students click Submit, it automatically was graded, but Edulastic gives me these nice reports. The other thing I like about this screen is over in the corner it says Student. I don't have to go back to that main page to see everybody and then click on the next student. I can just click on this little drop-down menu where it says Student, and I can just kind of scroll up and down and see each student that I want to without having to go back to that main page. Of course, remembering I'm still in that demo class. If at any time I wanted to switch classes, I certainly can just go ahead and click on that and go to another class and bounce back to that part of Edulastic. So I really like that it's really easy just to kind of pull all these menus down and just bounce back and forth depending on where I want to go. I also can click on this little arrow right here. This will bounce me back to the main page if I wanted to go back to the main page, but you get the idea how I didn't have to do that. I could have just dropped that arrow down for the students. I do want to show you, though, at this point on this reports page, I get this little box next to student responses. If I go ahead and check that box, it automatically checks all the students' boxes. And so at this point, I get lots of different options. I can print this, I can redirect it, or if I click on more, I can go ahead and add students, remove students, or look at this, I can download grades. So if I want to download these grades to a CSV file, again, if you're using PowerSchool or ProgressBook or another, grading application where you want it to automatically go there, you need to make sure all the fields match and all that stuff, but you're able to get these grades out of Edulastic into a CSV file and then upload them into PowerSchool or whatever grading software that you're using. Again, though, you need to make sure that everything matches, and again, the main part of that is you need to have that unique field for each student, so that may be like their lunch number or their username or whatever, because if two students have the same name or the same last name or whatever, but you are able to do that, and same thing, you can do that in Google Classroom too. But I like how you get all these different options to do this. You can grade it in Edulastic, and then you can kind of pull it out of Edulastic too. So let me scroll back up and let me click on, I'm going to click on reports right here. Once again, I just kind of wanted to show you, this is pulling from my demo class. So this is based on kind of the standards. And I can pull, like, depending on which one I wanted, mastery, the score. I don't really have a lot of information in this one, but it does show me that I can go ahead and view by the mastery, the score, score over here percentage-wise versus just like a score like 8 out of 8, 6 out of 6, 9 out of 9, or go ahead and score it by percentage. So if I don't want to see the colors per se, I can go ahead and click over here in reports, and that will give me a different way to view that same data. Select the standards. Here's my math class. Well, actually, we're still in my demo class here, and I can just kind of look at it a different way. So I can go ahead and do that too. So it's going to still show me my class average, still show me how each student did, and then how they did on each standard there. So really, really neat. And again, it's automatically doing that for you. So you don't really have to do anything other than just kind of create your assessments by putting those questions in, or kind of mismatching all the things that you might find in the library and creating your own type of assessments or type of questions. I'm going to go ahead and bounce down here to Manage Class. And down at the bottom, we've already been here a couple times, but I do want to mention one thing. In your Manage Classes, right down here, you can show your active classes and you can show your archived classes. And in Google Classroom, and again, I'm going to kind of refer to Google Classroom for this, you have the ability, when you get to Google Classroom, you have your home page where you see all of your classes. And then you can go ahead, if you have a class from last semester or last quarter or something like that where you're not really ready to delete it, but you don't want it on your home page, you can archive it. And it's still there because you have unlimited space in Google, but yet you don't really have to see it each time you go to your home page in Google Classroom. Well, same thing with this, same thing for Edulastic. You can go ahead and archive any classes that you may not want to see on your home page right away. So if I visit this webinar class, of course, there's really nothing in here, but if I wanted to archive this class, you can see that I can go ahead and archive class right down here. And when I click on Archive Class, it's going to say, hey, are you sure? And I like this part because it's not easy to just click, 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 and then have it go away. So you actually have to type in archive. And then when you say, yes, archive, my webinar class now will become archived. And so this number will say 2 here in a second. My webinar class is now archived. So I'm not really seeing it on my main page. And that's helpful because when I go to my dashboard or when I go to Manage Classes, I only want to see the classes that I'm currently teaching. I don't want to have to scroll up and down, back and forth to see, things that I'm not teaching anymore. So know that you have that ability too. Now, there was a question about science and social studies. So I'm going to revisit that that assessment library really quick. And, we can search by name, and we can also search by grade level, of course. And here's my subject. So down here, I can click on all subjects. And of course, this is kind of defaulting to math once again. Let me get out of this filter here. Let me just search. Let's see. We'll just say science. We'll be really, really broad. Say math. We'll say all subjects. So we can go ahead, and of course you certainly can drill down, and I keep getting that subject there, we can drill down by grade and all that stuff too. But I do have some extra things down here. So here's physical science, and here's minerals, and here's different things. Now, I'm a big I don't want to have to recreate the wheel if something's already been done. So I'm really, really used to just going places to the assessment library and looking at the things that are already there, and then seeing if it's something that I can use, or maybe I can just kind of take parts and pieces of it and then add my own. So I'm just scrolling through this science, and again, this is kind of all over the place because I really didn't specify a grade level or standard or anything like that. But I'm just kind of scrolling through. And so there are some science things in here, depending on, what it is that you're looking for. It does list all the different standards that it meets. This one has like 5 stars or whatnot. So it is rated a little bit. If I preview this, I can see what this looks like. So we looked at a lot of math examples today. But if I click on next, this particular one has a lot of multiple choice, and I can go ahead and look through these. And again, these are just kind of questions that go through. Keep in mind, though, that you can go ahead and edit any of these questions also. So I pulled in this science assignment where I can go ahead and assign it, or if I wanted to make my own version, I can go ahead and say create new version, and I can go ahead and look. There's 28 questions, and this is where I would go ahead and edit any of the things that are already created. So if I didn't like this one, I can get rid of it. If I wanted to move it, I can go ahead and move it. And at this point, I can go ahead and, make it my own, save it as a draft if I wanted to, or if I'm just ready to publish it, I can go ahead and publish it and assign it, and then pick which class I'd like it to go to. So again, if I was in your shoes and I was just starting with Edulastic, I really would look at that assessment library first and just kind of see what's out there, as well as looking at the assignments part. When you click on Create New Assignment, that's where you can go ahead and browse all the assignments that might be there, or you can click on the questions and look. Somehow it went back to my Math Common Core, but you can always change that to be science or social studies or whatever subject you teach, and just kind of go and see what's out there and see if it's something that you can kind of piece together. That way you don't have to do everything from scratch. But you certainly can do that too if you'd like to. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up because we're about out of time. You do have this help button down at the bottom, and I know lots of times some people don't really like to use that, but I'm a big fan of clicking on things like that because sometimes, if you're stuck and you want to ask a question and you're not really sure how to do it, just go ahead and click on that help, type in the question, and then it will go ahead and come back with some information. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move this screen. If there's no other questions about Edulastic, I'm going to go ahead and move this screen back over, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up at the end of our presentation. This presentation is, like I said, recorded. This webinar is recorded. Within the presentation, this Google Slides presentation, there are screenshots for Edulastic. So this presentation will also be out on our website, our training.nowaka.org website. So feel free to make a copy of this presentation if you'd like to, or just kind of click through it and look at some of the different screenshots that are here. A lot of these things, that we talked about today. So feel free to use that. But what I'm going to go ahead and end with, and then if there's any questions, we'll just kind of leave that for the amount of time that we have left. I'll just go ahead and make this full screen. What I'm going to end with is, of course, thank you for attending. If you'd like to get involved with our Google Educators group, and if you remember, that's when we talked about that Perrysburg Roadshow which is coming up on March 7th. So if you'd like to get more information about that or get involved, there's the short link for our Google Educators group that will pop you out to our Google Educators page. And then you can go ahead and find information about the roadshow. And like I said, it's free, and I would encourage you to sign up. If you'd like a copy of this presentation, all those screenshots that I just showed you, they will be in here, as well as, like I said, once I stop recording and then I kind of edit the front of this presentation and edit the end of it, this recording will also go out on our training.nowaka.org website, as well as this presentation. So either way, if you'd like a copy now, you can go ahead and jot that down, or you can just kind of wait until it's out there, but it will be out there. Here's our link for our Tech Tuesday tips. If you'd like to get involved with those, you can go ahead and visit that link. You sign up one time, and then every Tuesday we will go ahead and send you an email for some tech tips, and hopefully those can kind of help you out in the classroom. And then lastly, for CEU information for this webinar, we say 24 hours, but usually by tomorrow morning when you get to school, you will have an email from our NOWAKA FileMaker system, and it will have a link inside the email that will be an evaluation. Once you fill out that evaluation, it will prompt you for a couple other steps to get your certificate to your email. So it's going to go ahead and ask for your first name, last name, email, all the things that need to be included on your CEU certificate. Once you fill out that information, then your CEU certificate will come directly to your email inbox. So like I said, the initial email comes probably by tomorrow morning, but then once you fill all that stuff out and click submit, then your CEU certificate comes rather quickly to your inbox. So I'm going to go ahead and end at that point. We have about 4 minutes left. I'm going to stay in here. I'm going to keep this screen up if you guys want any of those links to the Google Educators group or the presentation or the tech tips for Tuesday. I'll leave that up. Feel free to jot those down. Otherwise, thank you for attending our Edulastic webinar. Hopefully you've learned some information about Edulastic, and we'll see you at the next one.